Eleanor and James had been inseparable through their university years in the quaint town of Ashwood. For 3 years, their love had blossomed amidst late-night study sessions, shared laughter over lukewarm coffee, and quiet walks beneath the campus's ancient oaks. Their bond felt unshakable, a steady flame in the chaos of youth. On the day of their graduation, as the sun dipped low and cast golden streaks across the sprawling lawns, James offered to drive Eleanor home. She settled into the passenger seat of his weathered sedan, the familiar scent of leather and his cologne wrapping around her like a comforting embrace. Exhausted from the day's ceremonies, she let her eyes flutter shut, lulled by the hum of the engine. When she awoke, the scenery outside had shifted dramatically. Gone were the familiar rolling hills of Ashwood, replaced by the shimmering coastline of Seabrook, James's hometown. The realization hit her like a cold wave, and she turned to him, her voice stumbling over the words. "Wait. You're not doing what I think you're doing, are you?" James, his dark hair tousled from the wind, feigned innocence, a playful glint in his hazel eyes. "What do you think I'm doing? You'll have to spell it out for me." Eleanor slumped back in her seat, closing her eyes with a groan. "Meeting your family." His laughter erupted, rich and unrestrained, filling the car. She swatted at his arm in frustration, landing 2 light punches before he caught her hand. Lifting it to his lips, he pressed a gentle kiss to her knuckles, his voice softening. "What's there to be afraid of? It was bound to happen eventually." She glared at him, her cheeks flushing. "But look at me. I'm in a ratty sweatshirt, no makeup, and I didn't even bring a gift." James's gaze turned tender as he brushed a strand of auburn hair from her face. "Ellie, you're perfect just as you are. Trust me, you being here is the greatest gift my family could ask for." His words melted her defenses, and though her nerves still buzzed, she relented. They'd come this far, what choice did she have? Steeling herself. With a mix of resignation and bravado, she stepped out of the car, linking her arm with his as they entered a bustling seaside restaurant. Inside a private room, a sea of unfamiliar faces greeted her. The table was laden with steaming dishes, crab-stuffed dumplings, glazed prawns, and fragrant rice, and the air hummed with chatter. Eleanor clung to James's side, nodding politely as he introduced her to a whirlwind of relatives. "This is Grandmother Beatrice. Uncle Frederick. Aunt Margot." Her mild social anxiety and tendency to forget faces didn't help, the names and smiles blurred into a dizzying mosaic. She managed to anchor herself by recognizing James's parents, Margaret and Thomas. Both radiated warmth, their kind eyes and easy laughter putting her at ease. Then there was Clara. Seated beside Margaret, she was impossible to miss, a vision of elegance with cascading chestnut waves, flawless makeup, and a pale pink dress that shimmered like dawn. She stood out amidst the older relatives like a rose among thorns, her presence polished and deliberate. Eleanor glanced down at her own faded jeans and oversized tee, feeling like a sparrow next to a peacock. As she slid into her seat beside James, regret gnawed at her. Beneath the table, she squeezed his hand hard enough to make him wince. He stifled a grimace, covering it with a cough, and gently rubbed her fingers against his knee, to soothe her. Clara leaned forward, her smile bright and teasing as she winked at James. "Well, Jamie, you've outdone yourself bringing such a lovely girl home." Eleanor managed a tight-lipped smile, smoothing her shirt self-consciously. Clara, unfazed, plucked a glossy shrimp from the platter and placed it on Margaret's plate with a playful lilt. "Godmother, look at him. I swear just yesterday he was the sniffling brat trailing after me, and now he's all grown up, tall, handsome, and in love. Relationships really change a man, don't they?" Margaret chuckled, patting Clara's hand. "You've all grown up so fast. Time flies, doesn't it? And you, Clara, you're a stunning young woman now. No boyfriend at school? Too shy to tell your mother? Tell me instead, I'll back you up." Clara stuck out her tongue with a grin. "No way. The boys at my school can't hold a candle to Jamie. I'd never settle for less, imagine how much he'd tease me. She rose then, smoothing her skirt with a flourish, and excused herself to the restroom. A waft of floral perfume trailed her as she passed Eleanor, who wrinkled her nose and leaned toward James. Who is she? Your godsister or something? James shrugged, his tone casual. Just my mom's friend's daughter. She likes calling me that, so I let her. Before Eleanor could press further, Clara returned, her heels clicking against the hardwood. Instead of reclaiming her original seat, she slid into the chair beside James, grabbing a bottle of wine. She filled a glass to the brim, clinking it against his with a coy tilt of her head. A man can't say no, especially not in front of his girl. Keeping this big news from me? You owe me 3 drinks as penance. James laughed, pushing his glass toward Eleanor. You don't know the half of it. Ellie here could drink you under the table. Against her, you're swinging a toy sword at a knight. Go on, Ellie, show her. Eleanor shot him a withering look, but picked up the glass, smiling thinly at Clara. He's driving, so no drinks for him. Let's just sip, too much. Isn't good for us girls anyway. She took a measured swallow, while Clara, after downing hers in one dramatic gulp, licked her lips with a pout. Minutes later, as Eleanor fielded Margaret's gentle questions about her studies, a dull thud interrupted her thoughts. Clara's head lolled onto James's shoulder, her glass clattering against the table. He fumbled to steady her, exasperation flickering in his eyes as she groaned, her cheeks flushed. Godmother. I think I overdid it. I'll head out. Edmund, James's younger brother, leapt to his feet, his voice eager. Clara, I'll take you home. She waved him off, casting a shy glance at James. No, Jamie should do it. Mom wouldn't trust anyone else. Margaret frowned, concern creasing her brow. Goodness, how did she get like this? James, take her home, but hurry back to keep Ellie company. James met Eleanor's gaze, his expression apologetic as he patted her head. I'll be quick. Wait for me. With that, he draped his coat over his shoulders and guided a wobbly Clara out of the room. Eleanor set her chopsticks down, her eyes drifting to Clara's abandoned glass. It was still full, barely touched beyond a single performative sip. Exhaustion settled over her like a heavy fog. The next morning, Eleanor stirred to find James's face hovering above hers, his dark eyes glinting with mischief as he tickled her lashes with a strand of her own hair. She blinked, startled. When did you get back? Around 10, he said, a flicker of guilt in his voice. I meant to drop Clara off with her mom and come straight back, but her mom wasn't home. Clara kept complaining about a headache and nausea, so I made her some honey water and waited till she passed out. You were already asleep when I got here, I didn't want to wake you. Eleanor's stomach twisted. James, she's just your mom's friend's kid. Don't you think you're crossing a line here? He grinned, pulling her into his arms and tousling her hair. Ah, my Ellie's jealous. It's adorable. She wriggled free, smoothing her tangled locks with a scowl. He sat up, meeting her gaze earnestly. All right, I'm sorry. No more of that, I promise. I know you're upset because you care, but Clara and I? Nothing's there. She's like a little sister, always has been, growing up together. I guess I'm just used to being close with her. I'll watch it from now on. His sincerity softened her resolve. 3 years with James had taught her to treasure what they had, and she didn't want a single misstep to fracture it. Maybe she was overthinking things. Clara might be a flirt, but James's heart was hers, wasn't it? She sighed inwardly. They'd leave Seabrook soon anyway, Clara wouldn't be a problem once they were gone. A sharp knock at the door jolted her from her thoughts. Margaret's voice floated through. Ellie, dear, awake yet? Breakfast's ready, I made your favorite egg pancakes. Panic seized her. James was sprawled on her bed, grinning innocently, while she was still in his parents' house. What would they think if they found him here? She sprang up, hammering his chest in a fluster as he buried his face in the pillow, shaking with silent laughter. "Why yes, I'm up," she called through the door. "Be right out." As Margaret's footsteps retreated, Eleanor cracked the door open, peering out with a nervous giggle. Aunt Margaret, let James sleep a bit longer. I'm slow getting ready, I'll wake him when I'm done." Margaret smiled warmly. "You're too sweet to him, but all right. Come eat whenever you're ready, no need to wait." Eleanor shut the door, slumping against it with a shaky breath. "When did you sneak in here?" James propped himself on an elbow, smirking. "Middle of the night, after they were asleep." "You're too cute, Ellie, I couldn't sleep without seeing you." She glared at him. "Get out before they catch you, or we're done for good." He raised his hands in mock surrender. Fine, fine, my little tyrant. I'll be stealthy. Go eat, I'll take you around Seabrook after. You'll love it." Over breakfast, James whisked her off to a gleaming mall, declaring it his mother's orders to spoil her. "Buy whatever you want, I'm just your pack meal today." Eleanor hesitated. "That doesn't feel right." He slung an arm around her shoulders. "Nonsense. Mom adores you, you're practically her daughter-in-law already. What's a little shopping?" Her cheeks warmed, a shy smile tugging at her lips. "Daughter-in-law? You haven't even proposed, dreamer." Still, she let him guide her into a chic boutique, her eyes catching on a pale blue dress in the window, soft and airy, like a rain-washed sky. A saleswoman approached with a practiced smile. "Can I assist you?" Eleanor opened her mouth to point at the dress when a familiar voice cut through the air. "Jamie." "Ellie." What a coincidence. Clara started toward them, toward James, really, her heels clicking, her hair now styled in voluminous waves that screamed glamour. "Hey, Clara," James said with a grin. "Shopping too?" Eleanor nodded stiffly as Clara looped her arm through James's with ease. "This is my favorite brand, I'm here every time they drop something new." "Oh. Are you picking out my birthday gift? I knew you'd come through." "I want that dress," she pointed at the blue one Eleanor had admired. James chuckled, peeling her off gently. "Calm down, you're not a kid anymore. No clinging, or no one'll take you." Clara pouted. "Then you'll just have to keep me forever." "Kid stuff," he teased, then turned to Eleanor. "Ellie, see anything you like?" She glanced at the dress, now tainted by Clara's claim, and shook her head. "Not anymore." Lunch followed, with Clara tagging along, her presence an unshakable shadow. At the restaurant, Eleanor and James sat side by side, Clara across from him, ordering with a flourish. "An iced Americano for me." James swatted her hand down. "No way. You know your stomach can't handle it, don't come crying later." "Sorry," he told the waiter, 3 hot matcha lattes instead. And for food, sweet and sour pork, rice pudding, steamed sticky cakes, crab roe tofu. Clara propped her chin on her hand, grinning. "Fine, I'll skip the ice since you still remember what I like." Eleanor's heart sank. 3 years with James, and their tastes had never aligned, she craved spice, he savored salt. Yet here he was, ordering a table full of sweets, none of which she'd touch. Had he been indulging Clara's preferences all along, masking it as his own? The thought curdled her appetite. She stood abruptly. "I'm going to the restroom." In the bathroom, she splashed cold water on her face, staring at her reflection, a fool in love. Footsteps echoed behind her, and Clara appeared, her smile sharp. "Ellie, we've got 20 years of memories. What do you have to compare?" Eleanor wiped her face, smirking faintly. 20 years, and he still didn't choose you. What's there to brag about?" Clara's expression darkened, then softened with a strange certainty. "You wouldn't understand." He's scared to admit it, we're too precious to risk bringing you here? It's to push me, to make me see I love him. And I do. Let him go, Ellie. Why cling to someone who doesn't want you? Footsteps approached, James, likely checking on them. Clara's eyes gleamed as she mouthed, let's bet. Then, louder, Ellie, don't be mad. Our families are so close, Jamie and I have always been like this. You don't mind, right? Her tone was syrupy, but as she brushed her hair aside, a vivid red mark on her neck flashed like a taunt. Eleanor's hand moved before her mind caught up, a resounding slap echoed off the tiles. Clara's head snapped to the side, her lips twitching upward in triumph. She stumbled out, tears welling, and threw herself into James's arms. Jamie. I just wanted to explain. He cradled her face, then roared at Eleanor. What's wrong with you? Why'd you hit her? Eleanor laughed, a hollow sound. She'd lost everything. We're done, James. Be happy. She walked out, the restaurant door swinging shut behind her. At the train station, James caught her arm, yanking her suitcase back. What's this? You can't just leave after one cryptic line. I get you don't like Clara, but hitting her? That's not you, Ellie. Let's talk, please. She faced him, calm and cold. Talk about what? Me apologizing? Watching you two play happy siblings? She's not your sister, James, no blood, no ties. You say I've changed, but look at yourself. 3 years, and I was your world. Now? You're blind to her games, because you don't know your own heart. His eyes flickered with panic. Ellie. She cut him off as his phone rang, smirking bitterly. Answer it. What if she's hurt? He hesitated, then picked up, concern etching his face as sobs crackled through the line. One by one, she pried his fingers from her bag. Go. She needs you. He looked at her, torn, but she turned and boarded the train. 2 days shattered 3 years. Too raw to face her parents, Eleanor returned to campus, claiming an internship to stay in the near-empty dorms. She crashed on her bed, sleeping through the afternoon. When she woke, her phone glowed with missed calls, her mom, her best friend, and dozens from James. She reassured her mom, vented to her friend, then blocked James without a second thought. Hunger gnawed at her. She ordered takeout, trudging to the gate to collect it. A sleek black car idled there, no delivery bike in sight. Puzzled, she tapped the window. It rolled down, revealing a handsome face, sharp jaw, deep eyes. Ellie? Recognition dawned. Henry? Her childhood exemplar, the flawless other people's kid her parents adored. He smiled. I work nearby, good parking spot. You're still here? The delivery guy screeched up, thrusting her food at her with a wink. 5 stars, love. She held the garish box awkwardly. Yeah. Takeout. Henry frowned. That's your dinner? He unlocked the car. Get in. I'll feed you properly. Henry's apartment was stark, black, white, and gray, a mirror to his crisp demeanor. He handed her oversized slippers with a sheepish grin. No women's shoes here, make do. She perched on his sofa, dwarfed by his perfection, tall, brilliant, untouchable. He emerged from his room in casual wear, softer now, and nodded toward the kitchen. Tomato egg noodles okay? It's what I've got. She nodded, stunned as he cooked with deft precision, the aroma of eggs and tangy tomatoes filling the air. He set a steaming bowl before her, vibrant and delicious. She took a bite, divine. Even his cooking was flawless. He watched her, amused. Slow down, I'll give you mine if it's not enough. Then, casually, heard you had a boyfriend. Her spoon paused. Had. We're done. Was that a spark in his eyes? I see, he shifted gears smoothly. I remember you love spicy pork and boiled fish. Next time, I'll make those. She blinked, warmth creeping through her. Maybe endings weren't the end after all. Henry was 3 years older than me, a gap that always seemed to stretch like an uncrossable river. When I was fumbling through middle school, he was already striding the halls of high school. By the time I reached high school, he'd vanished to a university miles away. And when I finally stepped onto a college campus, he was on the cusp of graduating, stepping into the world of work. It felt like I was forever chasing the shadow of his life, my footsteps echoing behind his, never quite catching up. All I could do was gaze at his distant figure with quiet envy, then lower my head and trudge my own uneven path, one step deep, one step shallow. But then, out of nowhere, everything shifted. I looked up one day, and it wasn't his back I saw anymore. It was Henry, standing right in front of me, his warm smile cutting through the haze. He reached out a hand and said, "Eleanor, I've been waiting for you forever. The boiled fish is ready, come home with me for dinner." I jolted awake, slapping my cheeks as reality crashed in. My phone glowed accusingly, 7:30. With a groan, I buried my face in the pillow. Eleanor, you hopeless, starry-eyed fool. He'd only treated me to dinner out of old childhood fondness, tossed out a couple of polite remarks, and here I was, spinning fantasies around it. Sighing, I dragged myself out of bed to wash up. Today was a big day, an interview at Henry's company. Over noodles the other night, I'd mentioned wanting an internship. He'd slid a business card across the table with a casual, "We're hiring. Want to give it a shot?" Objectively, it was my best option. The office was a stone's throw from campus, letting me stay in the dorm without renting a place. And Henry was there. A company chosen by a guy like him, brilliant, principled, wouldn't pull stunts like docking pay or exploiting fresh grads. My only worry was whether they'd hire me. I got ready with care, a light swipe of makeup, a crisp new blazer skirt combo, and my resume tucked neatly in hand. Stepping out, I felt a flicker of confidence, until I reached the company's parking lot. There, by the manicured shrubs, two familiar figures were locked in a tense tug-of-war. Clara and Edmund. Just my luck. Edmund, James's younger brother, wore a baseball cap pulled low, his head bowed as he gripped Clara's wrist. She faced away from him, pristine in a white dress and headband, the picture of innocence. "Edmund, thanks for driving me to the interview," she was saying, "but I only see you as a little brother. Even if Jamie..." Her voice faltered as she spotted me, her words choking off. "Eleanor? What are you doing here?" she asked, startled. I kept my eyes forward, striding toward the entrance. As I passed, I couldn't resist a pointed glance at their clasped hands. Clara yanked her arm free as if scalded, and a flash of hurt crossed Edmund's face. Quite the appetite, Clara, I thought. 2 brothers not enough? I had no time for their tangled drama, my interview was priority. But fate had other plans. In the waiting room, there she was again, perched delicately on a chair. Clara's eyes widened at the sight of me, then lit up with feigned delight. She scooted over, plopping down beside me. "Ellie. You're interviewing too? What a coincidence." Her breezy tone pretended the parking lot scene never happened. I rolled my eyes, shifting one seat away. Undeterred, she sidled closer, bubbling with enthusiasm. "You won't believe this, but I've got a senior colleague here, a big shot. I'm here because of him." A coy blush tinted her cheeks. "If you ever need help, just tell me. I can ask him for a favor." I'd never rolled my eyes so much in 20 years. "Seriously? Does your tea have no limits? Forgot how you stole my boyfriend and framed me last week?" I was this close to slapping her again, but this was an interview. Waiting room, not a soap opera set. I turned my gaze to the door, and there was Henry, his handsome face framed in the glass. He flashed me a grin and a thumbs up. I smiled back, grateful for the cleanse to my vision. Clara, oblivious, shook my shoulder excitedly. Ellie, did you see that guy who just left? That's my senior. Her voice rang out, loud enough for the whole room. My jaw dropped. The world can't be this small. He was cheering me on, she gushed, her face glowing with bashful pride. I stared, dumbfounded. No way. Henry's taste isn't that bad. I was certain his eyes had been on me. Before I could retort, a staff member approached Clara, hesitating. Miss, you know Director Henry? She tilted her chin up, fluttering her lashes. Oh, not really, just a pure senior-junior thing. I nearly choked. Pure? Who's buying that? The staff member gave her a knowing look, glanced at her name tag, then whispered something to the interviewer inside. Clearing his throat, he called, next up, candidate number 7. Clara's number. She shot me a smug, good luck, Ellie. Hope we'll work together, if you make it, and sauntered off. Post-interview, I trudged back to campus, drained. The setting sun stretched my shadow long and thin across the pavement. A black car pulled up beside me, Henry. Ellie, hungry? Hop in, dinner's on me. I shook my head, too tired to muster enthusiasm. Thanks, but I'm beat. Just want to sleep. He nodded thoughtfully. Fair enough. Get in, I'll drop you off. It felt rude to refuse again, so I climbed in. The ride was quiet, the hum of the engine a soft buffer to my swirling thoughts. At the dorm, he turned off the car and faced me, his voice gentle. What's wrong, Ellie? You seem off. Interview go badly? No, I hesitated, then met his gaze. Henry, do you know Clara? He frowned, shaking his head. No. Who's that? She was at the interview. Said she's your junior, here because of you. He squinted, searching his memory, then shrugged. Doesn't ring a bell. I've got a ton of juniors, can't know them all. Wait. He paused. Now that you mention it, when I posted the job in our alumni group, someone did pester me with questions. Could have been her. I didn't even catch if they were a guy or girl. Relief washed over me, a boulder lifting from my chest. A grin broke free before I could stop it. I winked at him. See you later, Henry. Good night. Days blurred into a limbo of waiting for results. I holed up in my dorm, napping and snacking, occasionally texting Henry about old times. When the acceptance text pinged, I couldn't resist, I dashed to his place, devouring 2 heaping bowls of rice in celebration. He watched, amused, wiping a smear of broth from my cheek with a napkin. I blushed, staring down at the fuzzy pink slippers he'd set out for me. Last time, he'd only had men's pairs. Now, these soft pastel intruders clashed with his sleek black and gray decor, yet somehow fit perfectly. Did he get these for me? A quiet sweetness bloomed in my chest. The next day, onboarding confirmed my suspicions. Clara was there too, swarmed by fawning colleagues. The HR manager personally handed her a cup of water, beaming. Clara, you and Director Henry, are you really, you know? She giggled demurely. Oh, don't exaggerate, the room erupted in teasing cheers. How long have you been together? Such a perfect pair. Put in a good word for us with him. And she nodded graciously, promising favors. I snorted, cutting through the buzz. Good words? She'd have to get him to listen first. Striding to the desk, I faced the HR manager. I'm here to onboard. He barely glanced up, tossing me forms. Fill these out. 3-month probation. Screw up, and you're out. I scribbled my details and left, ignoring the whispers trailing me, so arrogant on day 1. She's jealous of Clara, and Clara's pitiful, she's targeting me, dragging you all down. Word of Clara's special tie to Henry spread like wildfire. My day was a grind of typing, filing, and planning, while her desk became a shrine of laughter, milk tea, and pastries. Near quitting time, she clapped her hands. I love how welcoming you all are. Let's grab dinner tonight, my treat. Cheers erupted. Will Director Henry come? Someone asked. He never joins us. The HR manager poked his head out. For Clara, he will. She feigned reluctance. I'll ask, but he's busy. No promises. Minutes later, my phone buzzed. Henry, dinner plans? Clara's idea, I typed. You going? Yeah, can't look too standoffish on day one. I'll swing by after work. Clara returned, beaming. He's coming, and treating us. More cheers, Clara's got pull. He's so sweet to her. Until I yawned, worried he'll get snatched. Not everyone's as grabby as you. Her face paled. Colleagues bristled, what's that mean? She's just bitter. But someone smoothed it over. Let's go, I'm starving. They piled out, leaving me behind. I shrugged, turned back, and knocked on Henry's office door. Director, got room for a straggler after you're done? The private dining room buzzed with chatter and clinking glasses. Where's Director Henry? A slurring colleague asked. Traffic, maybe, Clara said, tapping at her phone. Another noticed, Eleanor's not here either. The HR manager waved it off. Her loss saves Clara and Henry cash. Footsteps sounded, and Clara perked up. That's him. Everyone stood, only for me to stroll in. Their greetings died, replaced by awkward coughs as they Saturday late and loud, the HR manager muttered. Loud? Henry stepped in behind me, coat slung over his arm. Sorry to interrupt your meal. Silence gripped the room. The HR manager stammered, and no, Director, I didn't know, he shooed people aside. Make way for him. 2 seats remained, one by Clara, one by the door. I caught Henry's eye, nodding it was fine, and took the door spot. He hesitated, then sat beside Clara. Carry on, he said. Enjoy yourselves. Whispers rippled, aren't they a couple? Why'd he arrive with her? He's still next to Clara, though, no chemistry there, as Clara poured a drink, forcing a smile. As senior, a toast? Henry glanced at her coolly. Driving. No thanks. She sipped alone, deflated. I snickered, until juice splashed my shirt. Muttering, I headed to the restroom. Cleaning up, I caught Clara's reflection behind me. Not with your senior? Here for another slap? Her lips trembled. Ellie, you know him, don't you? So what? Tears welled in her dolled-up eyes. I messed up before, I was immature. Take Jamie back, please. Just don't take Henry. I've loved him since my first day at college, but he never saw me. Now we're here together, I can't lose this chance. I laughed, incredulous. Are you serious? Your crushes flip faster than your wardrobe. James, Edmund, now Henry, collecting trophies? You haunt my life, snatching everyone I know. Maybe you're in love with me. She sniffled, tears streaking her face, and fled. Back in the room, colleagues cooed, what happened, Clara? Just tipsy, as she swayed toward Henry. Here we go, I thought. She stumbled, and crashed to the floor with a thud. He'd sidestepped. Brushing off his sleeve, he deadpanned, sober now? Real tears sprang as she scrambled up, clutching her face, and bolted out sobbing. I pounded the table, howling with laughter. Henry, a beauty in your arms, and you dodge? No chivalry? He replied, straight-faced, protecting her reputation. A single girl falling drunk into a man's arms? Rumors would ruin her. I cackled harder. Reputation? Priceless. Ellie, done eating? I'll drive you back. 20 pairs of eyes swiveled to me, stunned. The HR manager's glass slipped, shattering on the floor. I nodded, stifling my grin. Henry stood. Enjoy the rest, I'm off. Outside my dorm, a figure crouched in the shadows. Closer, I froze. James. Nearly 2 weeks had ravaged him, bloodshot eyes, unshaven stubble. Shadowing his jaw. Once, he'd tease me with that prickly chin, laughing as I shoved him to shave. Now, those memories felt like a lifetime ago. He surged up, enveloping me in a desperate hug. Eleanor, his grip tightened, as if I'd vanish. I pushed, failing, and sighed. James, let go. Talk like adults. This just makes me hate you more. His arms dropped, trembling. Ellie, don't leave me. I can't live without you. His voice rasped, raw and broken. My heart twinged, then hardened. Who told you I was here? Clara? He shut his eyes, silent. I smirked. Figures. New target acquired, old one discarded. No, he burst out. There's a misunderstanding, she admitted she tricked you that day. Nothing happened between us. So what? I cut in. You think that's why I ended it? I waited for you, James, from that slap to the train station, for one question, what happened in there? You didn't ask. You chose her without hesitation. 3 years, and she outweighed me in a heartbeat. I can't stomach that. You've got 20 years with her, her cycle, her tastes, her everything etched in you. There's no room for me to erase her. So I'm out. He shook his head, frantic. No. It's not like that. We were so good, parents met, wedding next. Give me one more chance, please. I stared, cold. No one dies without someone else. Let it go, James. I turned and climbed the stairs, never looking back. Work transformed overnight. Colleagues warmed up, the smug HR manager groveled, begging me to overlook past slights. I brushed it off, coworkers. Not enemies. Clara vanished from the office. Maybe she saw the writing on the wall after her bluff collapsed. Maybe her purpose fizzled out. 3 months later, I passed probation. On my first official day, I dolled up with subtle makeup, grabbed a cake, and headed to Henry's for promised boiled fish, and to answer his confession from weeks ago. Cheeks warm, I triple-checked my hair, unlocked my door, and stopped. A sleek gift box sat on the mat. Puzzled, I glanced around, the neighbor's place was vacant. It had to be for me. Who, though? Inside, I set it on the coffee table and peeled it open. My breath caught. Nestled within was a pale blue dress, neatly folded, soft and faint, like a sky after rain, clear and carefree. The end.